Johnny, I love the board. Thanks.
There it is.
Hoping it's this stuff handled. 20
Yeah,
minutes, I see it.
We started talking about Austin FC and Nico Estevez, and we think that the Roto Borrell and Nico Estevez fan club, or the agents and handlers, they started getting into the gremlins, and so so I think that's what happened there. Along those lines, sir, do you want to start with Open Cup, or do you want to start with the text chain that we started on Sunday?
Oh man, yeah. Whatever you want to do. I mean, it's been a really tough week. It's been a tough couple of weeks for several people within the club, and Hendrik Rudstrom got a shot. He was the right choice initially for the club. General manager Issa Tall at the time would, actually this week told us that at the time it was the right decision to make. And that athletic poll that was done by Paul Tenorio, who's terrific. Where they talk to soccer executives around the league and they give you a chance to answer questions anonymously.
Yeah.
One of the best off-season acquisitions was, by word of the executives polled, was Hendrik Rudstrom to the Columbus Crew. So this was not a decision, while it was done within the Columbus Crew and the ownership silo, it was appreciated in other silos as well. It's unfortunate things didn't work out. We've heard this before. You never know until they get there. And then there are variables, the variables that include cultural acclimation. And I'm not saying that was entirely an issue. There were a lot of little things that led up to his dismissal on Sunday. But it's tough for coaches from other countries to come to the United States and get acclimated to this league and to this country too.
Yeah.
Look at Atlanta. Atlanta's a great example, a melting pot. You can go to any neighborhood in Atlanta, no matter your cultural heritage, and feel right at home. But if you walk 2 blocks to the east or 3 blocks to the south, man, you're in another world. That's not to say there's anything wrong with that layout. It is to say that no matter where you are in America, there are going to be adjustments that you have to make from a cultural standpoint. So there's that. And then, of course, the results weren't going Columbus's way. There is the commitment that the ownership and the leadership group have put toward the Columbus Crew way that they won't budge on. It doesn't mean we always have to play 3 in the back. But it does mean that there are certain principles that won't be broached or shouldn't be broached.
Right.
So, I loved Hendrik Rudstrom. John, you could tell he was a great interview. He spoke openly about what he was dealing with. And perhaps at some point the frustration bubbled over and he was just like, okay, this is, this is.
Well, but that's how some folks in European countries are. I mean, like if you want to talk to someone who is Dutch by birth and upbringing, they're going to be as open and honest, and we might even think of it as blunt when it comes to their thoughts, and they may not be as, and I'll go ahead and use air quotes and put a dollar in the jar, diplomatic in their sound as you would think. They're going to tell you what's on their mind, and that's just how they are. And I think that sometimes that gets lost in translation, or that gets lost in interpretation and feel. And you're going, well, man, that was kind of blunt, and he takes out the sledgehammer and busts the glass. But that's just how they are, and it's up to us, I think, at times to understand. Almost like it's almost like defensive driving for other cultures. Where we're concerned, we have to think about ourselves and about them when they're coming and having conversations with us. And I think that's just something that we have to become more knowledgeable about and understand where that other person's coming from when they say stuff like this.
And that's a really great analogy. I love that. And it works. And it worked for us in the media room. How much it worked or didn't work in the locker room, I think we've been led to believe that at times it just wasn't a really smooth transition. And so Laurent Courtois takes over as interim head coach.
Yes, he does. Oh, boy.
What, did that surprise you?
No, just I know what's coming.
What do you mean?
because of his time with Crew 2, and I mean, I'm talking like on the field, and it's like you've got to prepare, you've got to be ready for anything and everything, and you can look at tape as far back as you want, and it is you've got to be prepared for this center back to be marauding forward and coming off the right-hand side. You're not going to have anything involving real true formations. Folks are going to be wandering into spaces. And if you have in your mind a vision of a set formation where Laurent Courtois is concerned, much like Wilfried Nancy and much like Henrik Rudstrom, don't get stuck in this notion of, okay, it's just going to be these four like this, these four like this, these two up here like this. No, it's going to be like a spirograph exploded, man. You got to be ready for anything and everything coming at you. And it's almost like you're going like this. It's like dodgeball at times, having to deal with what Laurent Courtois is going to be, coming at you with. And out of the blocks, it was an Open Cup win, and then you get Atlanta United in the last match before the World Cup break. You got to be ready for everything where he's concerned.
Well, it's a great point. I think the players indicated to us as much that they are probably a little more anxious even than Laurent to get back to a way of playing that they're more accustomed and comfortable with.
Yeah.
And we saw, a multitude of signs of that last night in the 1-0 win over New York City in the quarterfinal of the Open Cup.
Mm-hmm.
New York City had beaten us 10 days ago, 3-0 on a Hannes Wolf hat trick.
Mm-hmm.
Hannes Wolf is tremendous. I've liked him since he landed at New York City 3 years ago. So I'm going to say I was ahead of that curve.
There you go.
But it was the same lineup, less Keaton Parks last night, that we saw 10 days ago. And essentially for Laurent, it was the same lineup that Henrik Rudstrom put on the field at Yankee Stadium 10 days ago for Columbus. So this was going to be a full-on battle. And it was a, kind of a boring chess match in the first half, but these games always do come down to a second half ebb and flow that's at a much higher rate than the first half. Both teams exhausted after a full week of 3 games in 8 days.
Yeah.
And New York on the road for the second of 3 this week. They go to Nashville on the weekend.
Mm.
So, we were just happy to be back in town, happy to be back at Scott's Miracle Grow Field. And you get beyond that, you get the new coach's bump. You get a good vibe in the locker room. Darlington Nagbe has returned to the bench temporarily as an assistant coach to put another set of eyes on the first team performance while the staff gets sorted out. And, it was a really good performance last night against a very good New York City team.
I wonder whether it's between the ears or on the pitch, what not having Maxi Morales meant to that bunch too, considering he is a troublemaker of the highest order, and I say that in the most complimentary way humanly possible.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And Jonathan Shore did his damnedest last night to mimic as much as he possibly could. And Kai Truin was terrific too in the midfield. Those two guys are really a 6 and an 8. They're not a Maxi Morales, but we also had Nico Fernandez was truly the Maxi Morales in that role last night for New York City. And if Glenn Crooks is listening, he should be pleased that 12 hours later, I'm naming all of his team's players.
There you go.
Glenn Crooks, the voice of New York City FC.
Yeah.
I think Nico's really good. Maxi is just a bit level better. He's got 3 assists on the U.S. Open Cup stretch. He's got a bazillion assists in his time spent in MLS, and he could have been a big help. But, City did what they could, made it a second half game, put us under pressure late. We never had a test of the goalkeeper, Nico Hagen. So City's going to leave that game scratching their heads saying, how come we couldn't create at least 1 or 2 chances in the box? It was just a good performance. It was a very typical game of that level. And we're looking forward to the semifinal against Orlando City at our place in September.
Orlando, absolutely true. Boss loves it when I start quoting Book of Mormon and busting out that as a theater kid that she was. She loves it when I do those kinds of things. So then you build off of the midweek, and you're doing it with all of this external stuff going on and trying to build and play another match, at least it's on Sunday as opposed to Saturday, and schedule compression, all the stuff between the ears and on the field, and you've got to get, and you're coming with Atlanta right before the break. What kind of a match are you anticipating? Is it everybody sitting there going, what can you give me? What can you give me? What can you give me? Darlington, can we use you for 15 minutes at the end? I mean,
he's not wearing a jersey, John.
I mean, we need you to calm things down at the end. Darlington, can you wear somebody else's jersey and be reported in and get the substitution right, unlike what they did with Neymar last weekend? But what kind of a match are you anticipating, considering the grind that Columbus has been in and through to get to the end of the line here? That's about right. That's when you went, yeah, that's about right. Because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's great that we have an extra day.
Yeah.
And I think that both of these teams want to end this portion of the season knowing that they've got a positive or two under their belts. Columbus is at home, should take advantage of it. We spent a whole week out on the East Coast last week and lost twice and tied once to Philly. There's no time at this point with 9 losses on the season to take a break. Max Arfston is waiting for a call from Mauricio Pochettino. Steven Moreira has already been invited with Cape Verde. He'll be in Atlanta, I think, in that match against Portugal in the World Cup group play.
Can't wait.
And it's, by the way, congrats to Atlanta for making their seats some of the most affordable seats in the country for the World Cup.
Concessions, too, brother. Concessions. That is one of the other things. Concessions, that never changed. A lot of people are sitting there going, "Oh, well, what about concessions?" Yeah, it's that way. It's always been that way. It's not changing for the World Cup. Ain't changing for nobody. You can go and get the basic food. That price never changed either.
Yeah, I love the attention that Arthur Blank has brought to soccer in your city, and I think we, as soccer people and as fans of the game, should consider ourselves blessed for the investment that's been made on behalf of soccer in America on all levels.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to see a very spirited performance on Sunday. What we saw last night was a very disciplined rotation of players in and out of positions, coverage where it needed to be handled, and threats through the middle of the park into attacking sequences. So you put Matt Freese on the back on his heels a little bit. Freese comes up with 90% of those saves. If you put Atlanta under that pressure, all due respect at this point in their evolution, maybe you get lucky one more time. And I think the team needs that, the club needs that, and I think the supporters need it too, because it has been a bit of a drone over the last several weeks. And I will admit that we're spoiled in Columbus, but we also have high expectations. And I think for a period of time, you felt that in Atlanta.
Still do, yeah.
And you're probably a little numb to it, but I think Atlanta fans have got to have those expectations as well. And hopefully those expectations are met sooner rather than later for both clubs.
And I mean, all of the goodwill, if you want to use that term, over the last 6 or 7 matches leading into the midweek, where it seemed like the team was turning the corner, understanding what Tata Martino wanted to have them do. Defense was there before the offense was, no real surprise. Relationships were forming. You weren't having bumper cars when you were trying to formulate things in the attacking third. And all of that just goes circling down the drain into file 13, and you hear the sanitation truck and the brakes that need to be replaced. You knew that thing was coming, and then you hear the outside. That's what happened in Orlando. Those 6 to 7 matches, it is gonzo, considering that you gave up 4 in the first 45 to the purple team. And now you got to wonder, injuries in the center back position because Anea Mihai injured his shoulder a week ago. He did not. He was not part of the party in Central Florida. You wonder where folks are when it comes to their minutes, considering it'll be third match 9 days. It's going to be interesting what the layout's going to be for Tata in this last match before the World Cup break, considering everything that happened in the midweek. And Tata, after the match, was like, yep, that's on me. The formation change, it's on me. And that's what coaches do in these situations. They're going to sit there. They're going to take the heat for it. I'm just as intrigued as you are, because I think that we're looking in a mirror when it comes to expectations, the talent that's on hand, the coaching staff that is there for Atlanta and that was there for Columbus. I think that this is a mirror image game where you have expectations and fans being where they are. You're dissatisfied with where you are in the standings. And so who takes that first positive step with the last match before the World Cup break?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of ways to look at it. And I agree with you that maybe these teams are similar. I would say it would be easier for Atlanta to lose on the road on Sunday than it would be for Columbus to lose at home.
True.
And I hope that mental exercise is a part of the preparation going into Sunday and part of the locker room talk on Sunday afternoon at Scott's Miracle Grow Field.
Mm-hmm.
We're going back to a roster of players who won MLS Cup, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very least, they won the 2024 Leagues Cup. They know what that race is like. There are still 3 trophies on the line for Columbus. There are 2 available for Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
The season is not lost. What will happen in the 8-week break for the World Cup will be critical for all the teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
As we look at the acquisition of talent, the selling of talent,
yeah,
and the settling of rosters going into Leagues Cup coming out of July.
How busy do you anticipate it being in Columbus? Because I anticipate that it's going to be pretty busy / fairly busy here with the roster currently in hand.
Well, it's interesting. Let's talk about selling talent. I think the Leadership Council, headed up by Captain Sean Zawatsky, it was articulated to us on Tuesday from Sean that, there were a lot of messages going back and forth between players and then eventually with the leadership group within the club. I'm sure there are some players that were not happy that they weren't playing as much for whatever reason. And now that tune maybe changes in these 2 games. The Open Cup game last night and the Atlanta game on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Does that player, disappointed he's not playing during the Rootstrom games, say to himself, okay, you know what? Maybe I could stay in Columbus. Maybe I need to withdraw my request to be traded. Maybe there is a spot for me in August in that busy stretch of games for every team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And then, of course, there are the needs. Wessam Abu Ali went down with a torn ACL not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's our star striker. All due respect to Diego Rossi. Diego's not a number 9, but Wessam is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's gone for the season. So what kind of flex do you have as a club and as an ownership group? What kind of money are you willing to put up to a team that is typically spending in the middle third or just to the lower end of the top third in the league, and find yourself a solution up top if you need one for the remainder of the season? We saw Jamal Tiare come back last night. He's a former Atlanta player.
Mm-hmm.
Came back from injury last night. He injured himself at the beginning of April in an Open Cup game down in Richmond. It was great to see him back. And I saw what Henrik Rootstrom kept saying was that this club needs a number 9 to take the pressure off our possession phases when we're in the lead or chasing the game, chasing a tie, because the number 9 can go up and occupy space between the 2 center backs and distract them from stepping forward and cutting off passes into the gaps, so into the space between the lines.
Yeah.
So I saw that in real time last night. Rootstrom was right. And if TRA had been healthy over this stretch, maybe the results would have been different. Who knows? But I still think we need a guy who can receive, turn, and finish. I think we need a target up top. And I do think a center back, maybe a U22, maybe somebody who's up and coming, makes the most sense for the black and gold. So we have plenty of midfielders. We have really talented players, top to bottom, on this team. And I'm anxious to see the younger players get more playing time. I think they will in Leagues Cup. But beyond that, it's hard for me to say. I love the roster. That's what we do, John. You and I take the sheet, we look at the players, we talk to them, we fall in love with them. Someone changes up, we throw it, in the wind, and we say, okay, that's the business of our sport, and we welcome in the new player. If there are changes made, smarter people than me will be making those decisions.
Right now, looking at the numbers, and this is as of March when they posted them, just over $950,000 in GAM available for Columbus. And in the 3-and-3 model right now, the DPs, Wes, Gazdag, Rossi, U22s, Akanzada, Aliu, and Hugo Picard. So that's the rundown of the 3-and-3 model and the GAM available as we go. I could take you and I could go for like an incredible amount of time to just break down everything and break bread and everything, but I'm going to let you go get brunch, and I know that you're incredibly busy. So go ahead and hit the promo for me, and let everybody know how they can hit the local radio option on Sunday.
John, I appreciate that so much. As usual, our thanks to Apple Television. They put the local radio call for all home games on the radio. You can listen to the guys from Atlanta for home games with Atlanta. You can listen to our broadcast on home games, including this weekend on Apple Television. But find us on iHeartRadio. I'm at Chris Doran 18 on X.
Yes.
And I look forward to seeing your guys on Sunday afternoon at Scott's Miracle Grow Field.
As always, just give your best to Mike and Jason. They're going to love seeing you. And as one of our great friends and one of our roster of amazings, it's always great to see you, my friend. And we will catch up with you soon. Love you very much. And we'll see you around the corner.
Love you too, John. Thanks for the time.
All right, Chris Doran, everybody. And so that is Chris Doran. And it is always cool to catch up with him and find out what in the wide world of sports is going on in Columbus.